side of Hamlin, I think.
Yes. Perfect. Did
Okay.
everyone get the recording notice? We're recording. Excellent. Okay, we've got lots of people filtering in. We did have, like I mentioned, over 100 people register for this event, so we had to open a wait list. And Tom and I are always thrilled to host sessions like this. So with this kind of demand, we'll perhaps offer to run another one on this topic. We also have one coming up in the next month all about financing. We're going to touch on financing from Kitchener. Welcome. We're going to touch on financing today, but we're really here as a resource for the community of anyone across the country interested in learning more about garden suites and what's possible in this kind of environment with this kind of housing product. So we've got more people coming in. We are recording and we will get started. And what do you think, Tom?
Just give us one more minute and we'll get rolling.
Perfect. Where we are, the sun is shining. I see some sun and some windows for those of you with your cameras on, which is so nice to see.
And there's a young lady from Vancouver. How is the weather out in Vancouver? I wonder. Better than here, I'm sure.
Yes, we had another snowstorm. It's not so much a storm. More snow today. Hi, everyone. Hi, Christina. Hi, Sure. Rainy all weekend.
Oh, gosh. Don't worry, summer's around the corner.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay. I'm going to get us started. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We do have a full presentation for you. We'll make sure everyone's out at the end of the hour, but of course, Tom and I are happy to stay on late to answer any questions that are specific to you and your property. Please stay muted during the call, and then we'll be sure to get to everybody's questions before the end of the night. So we're thrilled that you're here. On the docket today. Oh, mute everybody. There we go. You can just stay muted, and then we won't get that echo. That would be great. Thank you. So we've got lots to talk about. We did want to review just some language around what is a garden suite or additional residential unit. We'll be quick around that because we do understand that a lot of folks in this particular room have some of that kind of intro level education on what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about the benefits of a garden suite when it comes to thinking about the future of housing on your property, whether it be for yourself, for a family member, or for perhaps a member in the community. And then we'll talk to you about some of the very first considerations you'll need to make before even thinking about the design. So these are things like logistics. Can this actually go on your property? And ATTIMO was designed to really hold a property owner's hand throughout this whole process. So we'll do a little bit of that today. Then we'll get into all that's possible in the wonderful world of design and construction around modular garden suites. There are really so many options now, whether it be different types of building materials, the level of sustainability and off-grid or tech that's involved in your unit. So the world really is your oyster when it comes to garden suites these days. We'll talk about our process as a project and construction management firm that does exist to try and make this process as streamlined as possible for folks interested. And then we'll also talk to you about a rough cost and some financing options. And like I said, in May, we're planning on hosting an event specific to financing for garden suites. We'll talk to you about a couple of models we have readily available and then open it up to questions. Okay, so ATTIMO Homes is a construction and project management group that is really mission driven on trying to be a community leader and really a community champion in the attainable housing crisis that we're facing here in Canada. And so our mission is really to lead the charge in addressing the housing crisis by championing innovative and sustainable modular solutions in tiny homes that make housing attainable for all, and leading the charge not just in offering products and connecting property owners with potential products that would work for you, but leading the charge as that community champion in terms of education and really taking time to educate the public on what's involved. Tom Vincent, our CEO and president of ATTIMO Homes, who I will introduce soon and let you share a little bit of his story. Tom comes from the development world and has actually been doing a ton of work over the last 5 years, very much behind the scenes, meeting with Ontario Ministry of Housing. So really trying to take a top-down approach to make policy changes and process changes to make this type of construction easier for folks. So Tom, we'd love to hear from you now and a little bit of your history as a developer, but why ATTIMO and why now?
Thanks, Jessica. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. We really appreciate your time, and we believe that will be very informative. And at the end of the day, you'll have a really good feeling about attainable housing and affordable housing. I am a developer. I've been involved in many businesses over my career. You can obviously tell I'm not a spring chicken by any way, but I developed a plot of land here in Collingwood. 24 acres, and it's called Balmoral Village, and it's a age-in-place community. We'll have about 850 people in the community when it's finally finished within the next year or so. But you can go on and see it at Balmoral Village in Collingwood. And during my stage of building this particular property about 5 years ago, I was asked to go to a seminar on housing and the crisis that we have in the South Georgian Bay region. And then I realized it was really across Canada. And our crisis is basically we don't have affordable housing. And especially in the Collingwood area in the South Georgian Bay region, Collingwood, the housing went crazy, especially over COVID. And now an average house is $850,000 to $900,000. And young people can't afford that. There's no two ways about it. But having said that, it puts pressure on all the pinpoints as far as housing is concerned. So, conceptually, after studying the opportunity after 5 years, we really took a look at what can we do and how can we make a difference. And that to me is very important. It may sound very trite, but we're really just trying to make a difference out there in the marketplace and help people understand the options that they would have for housing. And building housing that is different, that is needed. And it's hard to understand that it's taken so long in Canada for us to recognize that, it's not important to get larger and have much more space and just put stuff. We need to be efficient in our living and be comfortable. And how can we do that at a very reasonable price? So that is our mission, is to not only with our tiny housing that we're going to talk about, and we won't have time on this particular call, but we've actually been developing community attainable housing villages where we have workforce housing, apartment housing, fourplex, duplexes, and tiny homes and apartment buildings. And all of these are attainable, and they're all done on the basis of a modular basis and not the normal construction, and therefore we can do it faster, quicker, better, I think, than anyone out there in the marketplace. And Jessica, throwing it back to you.
Thanks, Tom. As you can see, Tom has been around the block when it comes to all sorts of different housing. And so it really is exciting for Ontario and other parts of Canada to have someone like Tom who's had that experience in the for-profit development world, this invested and active in the attainable housing landscape. So the information tonight is really designed for property owners, or if you're looking to put a tiny home or garden suite on someone else's property that is owned. Families with aging parents or parents with aging children who don't necessarily have the ability to enter the housing market on their own. I would say, I don't want to say 90% for a fact, but most of the inquiries that we get are for families looking to support family members, whether that be parents, children, siblings. So it really is about bringing families closer together to not only provide housing, but provide community and a lifestyle that we're really looking to come back to. And really anyone invested or looking to invest, garden suites really are a great investment. They do raise the value of a property. And if you are a income property owner, adding a garden suite can add to your annual or monthly income for your income properties. Really, and anyone, we're always welcome. Anyone who's curious or interested in sustainable housing, sustainable living, you're welcome. And we're so grateful for your time. Okay, so just some terminology, because we know wherever you have found us, this is a hot topic in terms of what are these things called, and the terminology actually changes. So the province of Ontario, for example, was calling these accessory dwelling units. Up until just this fall, they changed to accessory residential units, which are ARUs. And the definition, we call them garden suites at ATTIMO Homes. Some people call them tiny homes. We are not, ATTIMO Homes is not in the business of working with tiny homes on wheels. So these are legal self-contained housing units on the same property as an existing house. So meaning they are an accessory to an existing dwelling. They're also in the GTA. We have some folks from the GTA referred to as laneway houses. And accessory residential units can actually also refer to apartments within a house. So garden suites are a detached accessory residential unit, meaning they are separate from the main dwelling. So already you can see that navigating this process, just the language and jargon alone can be a challenge. And each municipality even isn't, some are still calling them ADUs, even though the province of Ontario changed the term back in the fall of 2024. So part of ATTIMO's job is to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in terms of all these changes and policy updates, so that we can try and smooth and navigate this process on behalf of our clients as much as possible. So garden suites are the term that ATTIMO uses, and this is a house, a detached house in your garden. And so they're a separate standalone build. They range in size from anywhere. Our units start, the smallest we build is 320 square feet, all the way up to almost 1,000 square feet. You can build full modular homes of multiple thousands of square feet, but when we're talking garden suites, this is typically where a property would max out, is just under 1,000 square feet for one of these homes. They're designed for uses like rental housing, providing housing for family, and they're a great age-in-place solution. So not only have folks looked at this, building it, and then perhaps having children join them on the property, but actually moving into the smaller home themselves, and then having the bigger rental income from your larger main house that maybe is perhaps, you've been outsized, it's too big for you now. So there's all sorts of different uses for garden suites, and they really can, how you use your garden suite can really ebb and flow and evolve with you as a property owner and as a family. They are permanently installed, meaning they are on a foundation, but not so permanent that they couldn't be moved. So what's exciting is if you loved your garden suite, you could move it with you potentially to a new property, but most likely if you're looking at removing it, you can sell it again, and it can be picked up, lifted, and brought somewhere else. But it is securely fastened to a foundation, whether that be slab on grade, a slab of concrete, or helical piles, or sono tubes. So they are a permanent structure when they're in your backyard. Oh, and I skipped right to the end there. We're not getting off that easy. You've got a little bit of a, here we are. Okay. Benefits of a garden suite. We've talked a little bit about them. They're very versatile, and they really do increase the property value. So we're going to talk about some of those financing options, but the mortgage brokers and the banks that we've talked with really do see this product as a product that enhances your property value, just like an addition on a house would. So it is a good investment in that way. They're great for, like we've been talking about, multi-generational living and keeping parents and children close by. As a young parent with a 6 and 4-year-old, I can tell you I try to convince my parents every time they visit for us to live closer, because there's something really beautiful about raising a family and community and being closer together, and then being close to parents to be able to take care of them in their aging years. And it's how life is done in community living all over the world. And I think Canada is starting to wake up a little bit to coming back to this type of living. It does future-proof your home in a lot of ways as well. Some families that we've been speaking to have aging parents, more senior with small children, and know that when that garden suite would become available again, they'd have it available for their children, or as rental income, or as auxiliary space to their home. So there's always a great use for these. And almost, well, all of our units are built very sustainably and energy efficiently. So modern construction has come such a long way. And so when you build to Ontario Building Code, you're already getting a great product. But a lot of our manufacturers that we've partnered with do a lot of smart design to ensure that the energy efficiency and the impact of this home on the local environment is very minimal, if not net zero. So those are some of the benefits of garden suites.
I might also mention, from an environmental standpoint, our engineering company can meet with any of the people that are interested in a garden suite and talk about how they can take, for instance, solar panels or gray water management and those types of things. We can actually incorporate into a garden suite and make it very, very energy efficient.
Thanks for that, Tom. Yes, so those are all options. No matter what design you choose, you can always add these types of features to a model. Okay, Tom, over to you.
Thanks, Jess. Well, we want to talk about, considerations about it. Is a garden suite, right for you? We provide advice, and we will sit down with you, understand, how you want to expand your living space and the property's functionality, and really whether a garden suite, is appropriate. And, what can we do to help you in regard to, a conversion or going into a garden suite? And really talk about, like, where can you place them? We really know about the zoning, the lot, and we have to take a look at the lot size and the space requirements. It's interesting because every municipality has different bylaws in regard to the zoning, and it may sound like zoning could be very, very easy, but I can tell you that I'll give you an example. A municipality that we live in right now, we are looking at a 45% coverage, which means if you had a 1,000-foot lot, depending on your setbacks, you could have a 450 square foot unit. And then the next municipality, they only allow up to 800 square feet. And it's just a different assessment in regard to the zoning. So we really help people go through that depending on the municipality that they live in. And then really we have to understand, obviously, what you want and need, and we can work out the actual space requirements, so that if you're allowed to put in, let's just say 700 square feet in your backyard, then we can decide on 3 or 4 or 5 different models, because we have, well over 10 models that you could look at, and then take a look at it from a design perspective of, do you want a traditional design, do you want a modular design, a more contemporary design, etc., and then all of the features that you want. Do you want it for rental? Do you want it for family use? Do you want it personal goals? And I know that, a couple of people that have been through our model suite have turned around and said, gosh, our mother is aging and she's in her mid to late 70s, and we are thinking maybe of putting her in, having her go into a retirement residence, well, maybe the garden suite would be, a very interesting alternative. And basically, by the time you look at the cost of a retirement community, gosh, I build them, so I know what we're talking about. In 2 years, you could pay for a small garden suite home, and so there's a great advantage to that. So anyhow, we understand, what your timelines are. We understand the size that would be more suitable to you, and then we take a look at obviously, what's the budget that you need. In regard to setting this all up, so we can pull all that together for you. And now we're talking about design and construction. We have over 10 different manufacturers, mostly in Ontario, that we utilize. And these manufacturers, you can see a couple of them there called Habitat and Balance, etc. All of our partners, we have stick build, we have steel build, and then we have container conversion. Those are the three modular elements that we look at. And basically, when we understand what your needs are, then we can decide on the specific manufacturer based on what they produce, how they produce it, and the timeline, and whether they have the capacity to build the unit that you need in the time frame that we're looking at for you. So it's not like having one construction company and that's all you're going to, and they're going to do the job for you. We basically give you a tremendous latitude in regard to the flexibility of the type of modular manufacturer that we utilize for you. So we're really quite a different novel company. And you can see in a couple of those pictures there, the back there, you've got, we have 2-story units. Just mentioned like the 320 square foot model, which is our smallest model, and you could have that in a rectangle that just is showing you there, and then you can have again the unit and elongated that you can see up in the left hand corner there, and you can have again a very avant-garde contemporary unit versus a more traditional. And then we can put on any type of cladding that you want. We put any type of lighting that you want. We can put any type of doors and windows. So it really depends on what your needs are and where we go from there.
Thanks for that, Tom. And I think one of the benefits too that we didn't talk about modular construction overall is that every one of these companies builds inside a factory. So they're climate controlled factories. So none of your construction materials ever meet the outdoors until they're ready to meet the outdoors. So your insulation isn't getting snowed on or rained on. So when it arrives to your property, it is now weather sealed. And that alone is a huge benefit of this type of construction. As well, it offers a much better working environment for the folks working on your unit, and allows for more speed. You're not working with weather delays. You're not working with the same type of HR delays of people not showing up. These are well-oiled machines, and so these types of units are able to be built in as little as 3 or 4 months in the factory and then delivered to site. And that also means that your neighbors are not being disrupted throughout an entire build season. That one of our units, the one in the top left corner, the more avant-garde looking unit, that manufacturer only requires 8 hours on site. And some of the more like the larger, the containers, up to a week maximum, 3-4 days on site to put it together. So there is a lot less disruption to your life and to your neighbors as well. Tom, you was starting to talk about some of the customizations that are available. It really is like building a new house. So in terms of color, interior, exterior, siding, we showed a lot of modern roof lines, but adding a gabled roof. Some folks may find themselves in historical districts where there are certain rules around what something has to look like on the exterior. We can accommodate to any of those needs. Quality of windows, the color, whether you want black, white, brown, orientation and placement of windows, for most of our manufacturers are options as well. Flooring, kitchen cabinets, counters, even some of the appliances. you're able to choose. So our factories that are CSA approved, meaning they're built to not only Ontario Building Code, but Canadian standards. They have to have CSA approved appliances, but all of our manufacturers are in the know and get you these units with appliances in many cases as well. There's also options like what happens after that unit is installed with decking and landscaping and those sorts of things. So in terms of design, the world really is your oyster. Our manufacturers have come up with some really smart layouts. So with the shipping containers, there's a little bit more flexibility with your actual layouts because those aren't load-bearing walls on the interior. But really, we've partnered with manufacturers who make the most use of that small space. And so often the layouts are quite smart to begin with. So we're starting with at a great place. So I do see a question. I think I'm going to make sure that we get through the presentation, and I'll go back and answer questions. Sure, but keep asking them. We'll keep track of them, and I'll use that as our record. So thank you so much for your questions, and keep them coming. And then we'll use the chat as our place to start for mining questions. So how to start this whole process. And although there are lots of changes coming from the provinces down through the municipalities, there still is a lot to navigate with many moving parts. And so the reason that Tom started ATTIMO was to try and simplify that process for property owners so that there could be one point of contact for all of these different people and processes involved. So what we start with is an online form on our website that we ask you to fill out to give us a little bit of detail around what your goals are, what your budget might be, and what your timeline might be, as well as sort of the types of features that you're looking for in a garden suite. Then we book a call. So we respond to that email and send you an information package and send you a link to book a call. That call is typically with me. We are expanding our sales team, which is really exciting. And if you feel like you're ready, if we've done a light assessment of your property and we know it's not definitely going to be a no, there is some chance that this could work on your property. The next step would be to enter into a letter of intent. And really that's our property eligibility assessment. That's a $1,500 fee that if you purchase a garden suite with ATTIMO gets put towards the final payment of your garden suite. And if we find out that your property doesn't actually qualify, we will have a detailed report letting you know exactly why. And like I said at the beginning, we use that first call to make sure that before we ask you for that letter of engagement, we have a fairly good idea that something would be possible on your lot.
I'll also mention that in regard to the LOI and letter of intent, the reason we also have you sign that is that it outlines the responsibilities of our company, ATTIMO Homes, and you will then understand everything that we're going to do. And so we feel that there's a commitment there. Obviously, if we're asking you for a deposit, you have to understand what we're going to do for you, and we outline that in a contractual piece of paper for you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. And the next piece of paper after the letter of intent that we have you sign is called a letter of agent. And that says, Chris Donald here on the call says, Jessica Flynn has permission to call the municipality on my behalf to make inquiries about my property. And so that's required by the municipalities, but we have a document for that. And that enables us to ask the questions to the planning departments, to the building departments. We do a deep dive on those zoning bylaws as they exist right now for your municipality. We ask you to find or dig up your survey so we can examine lot lines. Sometimes we even get to the point where we have our site service team come and take a look to see if they could crane in a unit or have the right access that they need for your backyard. And then we engage, based on your budget, some of the designers that we think are the right fit for all the needs, as well as the style choices or direction that you're looking for. And we'll introduce you to that manufacturer and their design team so that you can ask some of those questions and get an idea of what the product is available. At that point, we would either have a green light from the municipality or not. And then we would go further down the process with a larger deposit, where you would choose your design, and we would get the manufacturer to start the architectural drawings or pull them off the shelf if you're using one of their pre-approved designs. And then we also start the building permit process on your behalf. So applying for permits and also getting quotes, more firm quotes from our site servicing partners. And when I say site servicing, these are the things that we need. So we need to hook up water and sewer and sewer, clean water, and hydro. And that can be done in one of two ways, depending on your property and depending on your city or municipality. It can either has to be connected to the sewer or septic if you're in a more rural property, or sometimes what we like to refer to as the umbilical cord. The garden suite can be connected to the services of your home. And we work with different site service providers depending on where you are in the province to get that work done. It also includes the foundation. So depending on the type of unit that you have, most of our single floor units are installed with helical plot piles, which are much kinder on the local landscape. Once you get into 2 stories, that's typically when you need an engineered concrete slab underneath your garden suite. And then there's finishing it all off. So putting in a pathway. Some municipalities require that you have a landscaped pathway. So these are all under that site servicing category. So we really don't quote out site servicing because it really is such a range depending on where you are, the distance that has to be dug, the style, whether it's hooking up to your home or to the town services. But we do guide you through that whole process and get it done. While all of this is happening, your home, your garden suite is being built in a temperature-controlled, weather-protected factory, and then it gets delivered on a flatbed truck, either in one unit or if it's containers, side by side or on 2 trucks. And they can either be depending on the access, can be lifted with a forklift off of that truck and put into place, or sometimes a crane is required to crane it up and over your house. And we look into power lines and trees and all of that before we would get down to this part of the process.
Well,
and then yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jess, I just wanted to say that I noticed a couple of questions coming through, but basically we handle that the site preparation and the service connections for everybody. And what we have is various contractors that will go out and we just, depending on the area that you live, we select a contractor and they'll go out and they'll give you a quote on hooking everything up and what it's going to cost, and we know how long it's going to take. So all that preparation work is done, and then we bring the unit in, as Jess says, and put it down and attach it. And believe it or not, I mean, it's only a couple of hours that a unit can be put down, and it can be installed in 2 to 3 days max. So you can have a unit up and running literally within a week of arrival. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Tom. And then, yes, so like we said, really it can be very quick once it does arrive. And so if you are rural Maryland, it would be, yes, your well and septic. So we have a client right now who's doing some investigation into her current septic. So she's dug up the paperwork and getting in touch with the person who installed that septic. We can also do that on your behalf. Because sometimes the septics, they're big enough for your house, but sometimes require to be expanded if you're adding another bedroom. So those septic beds are calculated by number of bedrooms, but the newer builds typically you put in a slightly bigger septic in anticipation of future growth on the property. So again, it all depends, but we can absolutely install these in more rural areas for sure.
The other option that we have, and it depends on the municipality, is that you can install an incinerator toilet, and you can look it up on the web. The best one is to go to Cinderella Toilets, and a family of 4 using this toilet on a regular basis would produce less than 1/2 of a cup of ash to be disposed of. It's a phenomenal toilet, and it's fairly expensive. But having said all that, it's a tremendous alternative so that you don't have to be hooked up to wastewater. So especially from a rural standpoint, it can be very advantageous.
Now, Tom, I know we're nerdy about the Cinderella toilet, and we think it's a great product. It's been around in Europe for over 30 years. It's not Ontario Building Code yet, but you are having conversations to try and encourage some of these changes. So how are those conversations going around that kind of technology?
Well, I do know that in rural areas, it is accepted as far as the Cinderella toilet is concerned. So it really is a matter of sitting down with each municipality. So I couldn't make a broad statement in regard to the acceptance of that toilet, but I would say that for the most part, I would say at least half of the municipalities, depending again where it's located. Most people don't realize that there are 444 municipalities in Ontario. So you have a lot of government out there, and they have a lot of different bylaws and features to go through. So, but we can cross that bridge, with anybody depending on what their needs are. But it's a viable option.
Great. And Tom, can you take us through, we're kind of getting to this topic when it comes to site servicing. So the cost of these units, and then our next slide is some financing options for folks as well.
So I'm sorry, Jess, we're now talking about the
cost of the units themselves.
I'm sorry. In rough figures, the cost between $350 and $400 a square foot. And it really depends on the size of the unit. And then it really depends, as Jess has talked about, is really all the upgrades that one would want. So obviously they come out with a certain grade of flooring or a certain grade of countertops or backsplash or that type of thing. And you basically put down a list of something that you're interested in, and then we can pull it all together from that perspective. Additional costs, again, it's tough for us to throw at a cost and say, well, that's going to be, the only cost that you're going to have to pay. But in regard to going through the site servicing and looking at the site preparation, it really depends on what we have to do, where you live, how much challenge it is. But we generally tell people in the $20,000 to $25,000 range should cover most of your costs in regard to bringing the unit in and having it ready to go. So most of the other costs are all covered, as far as the purchase of the unit are concerned. Jess, have I left anything out? I don't think on that.
No, I think that's great. There is HST on these products as well. So that would be in addition to that per square foot cost. But that per square foot cost is really the cost of construction in Canada and in Ontario right now. So it's you are getting something that is built for Ontario and Canadian weather that adheres to all the Canadian and Ontario specific building codes. And then we'll dive into some of the financing options we've lined up.
That's right. And somebody clicked on a question about insurance, by the way. So I just want to say that everything is covered from an insurance perspective, and then it comes into your lot. All the build is insured. And if there's, obviously, once the building is installed, then it falls under your own insurance, but that's all covered. There's no liability there at all for the individual that's making the purchase. In regard to the financing, we basically can look after that for you. Depending on what your needs are. If you wanted to pay by cash, you can do that. The HELOC mortgage, you can see that it's called a home equity line of credit, can be arranged through any bank, and it's obviously at a much lower interest rate than the normal interest rate. You can go out and get a traditional bank mortgage. You can attach it to your house. A lot of the times, if it's a major bank that we're going to deal with, that the bank will want a loan against the equity in your house. So basically, if you have $1 million house and you have, let's just say you have $250,000 and the rest of it's all in equity, you get $750,000 in equity. That would be more than enough to cover it from a loan perspective on a loan to value. As far as a chip mortgage is concerned, most people don't think of this, but you could actually take out 55% of the value of your house and cash out on that, and you get cash in your hands, and then you could pay for your garden suite. So it doesn't cost you anything except you start paying an interest rate, which is the interest rate is just when I say it's compounded, it's added up obviously over the year, but you don't pay anything until you end up selling the house. So it obviously builds up, but you're not having to take it out of your pocket, and there's no charges going through. The other aspect is the federal financing, which has come out recently as of January the 15th. You don't hear a lot about it, and I don't understand why the federal government, although they're obviously in an election right now, but why the federal government hasn't been promoting this as much as they have been. And it's a no-brainer for the banks because it's an insured mortgage with the bank. And so, but the only thing, the only caveat is that that you need to have the owner and or a relative living in the unit to take advantage of that financing. Having said that, the feds are also for secondary suites offering up to $80,000 loan at 2% for 15 years. That is the cheapest money that you're going to get in the marketplace, that's for sure. There's a note there we have on the slide you can see which talks about HST rebates. And again, depending on the cost, you can recover a significant amount of money on the HST that's payable. So, and the last point is that there are municipality grants. For instance, in the county of Simcoe, they offer a $30,000 grant, and also in fact, in Collingwood, we know that they offer up to $10,000 as a grant. With that grant, especially with the municipality, you have to tie in the rental rate with the money that you're going to get as a grant, and you have to keep it in place for 15 years. So it's a little, I think personally, it's a little bit onerous and it's not worth it, but you may find we're all individual, and you may find that it's worthwhile getting that type of grant and just keeping, the rental rates on a lower basis. So there's lots of options out there that can help you finance a suite and make it a lot easier.
Thanks for that, Tom. And we do have connections to a variety of either mortgage specialists or lenders to help, again, be that first point of contact and help you navigate. Again, everyone's journey will be different. And I did ask the question, if you could let us know in the chat, who are you on this call thinking of your garden suite for? Is it for yourself? Is it for someone in your family? So we want to have more room for 2 adult kids who've not launched yet. Yes, Marilyn. Waiting and dreaming of the day when small homes can be built without being an accessory. Great point, Amalia. And actually, some municipalities, a lot of municipalities used to have a minimum main dwelling requirement as large as 1,000 square feet. And so some municipalities have shrunk that down to 600 square feet. I think, Tom, I don't know if anyone's close to 400 square feet yet as a main dwelling. I know the Liberal government, who knows what's going to happen at the end of this month in Canada, but they did make a statement about wartime housing type of campaign. So we'll see. But I think empowering folks to choose the size of house that's appropriate for them and making that legal and not only allowed but encouraged is something that we in the industry are really sensing to be a possibility, which is all positive. So a municipality, I don't know if a municipality has gone as small as 320 square foot from a main dwelling. And as much as we are here to be an educational resource, we know that a lot of you are out reading all sorts of articles and staying on top of this as well. So please let us know when you see new things pop up. info@attimohomes.com, and keep us in the loop so that we can really tackle this as community allies together. We wanted to tell you about this garden suite that we had brought to Collingwood, Ontario. And so I know someone had a question about visiting. We have this unit available. We're exploring bringing a different style of unit to the Collingwood area as well. Yes, some of our manufacturers allow you to go on their site if they do have models available. Most of them don't, that you can walk through, but Tom made this investment because he realized that people need to really see and touch and feel what's possible. And even I myself, Tom and I go way back. I had a company called Funky Bunkies back in 2017. I've been around small structures for a while. But this unit that looks quite small from the outside, it just fits into 2 parking spaces here at the Home Hardware in Collingwood. It is such a joy to be in. It is so well laid out. This particular unit has a full bathroom with walk-in shower, stackable laundry, a bed. We have a double bed in this particular unit, but it fits a queen bed. Living room with smart furniture, so a pull-out queen couch. That black table you see at the bottom of your screen, that pops up to be a dining room table or a desk. So it's really about smart use of space and how you furnish a space as well. Now that we've had the model out since the end of September, it is looking for its forever home. And it has been such a gift to have, and it will be sad to see it go. We're selling this one for $150,000, fully furnished, including HST. So it's right around that 350, 400 square foot price per square foot mark. Plus you would need to factor in delivery depending on where it would go, and then your site servicing, but we could help with all of that. And because it's this particular unit, we would take $1,000 off of that $1,500 property assessment fee if this particular unit could suit your property and your family's needs. Another one of our, yep, go ahead. Sorry, Tom.
Can you go back to the, thank you. That unit as a rectangle was a 40-foot container. And I just want, somebody asked me the question before, and I think it's important. First of all containers are made in China. When they're shipped over, we only allow them to use dry goods in the container, any of the containers that we purchase. And those containers, so they've only been used once, they're virtually brand new. We're not taking old containers that are rusty and trying to refurbish them and put lipstick on a pig. You know, they are really brand new. But that unit you see there was a 40-foot container that was cut in two and then put together as a rectangle. And then we put a roof on it, and you can see it has a slanted roof, it goes back, and then obviously we have all of the services that are hooked up from the inside and out the rear of the unit. So it is a, I mean, it's a corrugated steel, and I can tell you is that that will last forever, and you won't have any problem. And just as already talked about, you know, it's R31 insulation, et cetera, but it really is a smart unit. The last thing I'll say is in the picture of the interior picture on the bottom, you'll see in the right in the corner of the black piece strip and then the white underneath it, right there, that is, believe it or not, the smallest dishwasher in the world. It does take, I think, about 4 plates and 3 wine glasses or whatever, but it is so cute, it's unbelievable. But it just shows you the economy of space that we have in our units here. Yeah. And Justin, you mentioned, you can see in the picture on the right, you can see the washer and dryer in the back, and it's on wheels because there's an entry level going into the hot water tank. But again, you have everything that you need.
Thanks for that, Tom. And these ceilings too, when you walk in, people are often surprised by the ceiling height. So after you factor in the insulation and drywall, you're left with 8.5-foot ceilings in this particular unit. So that also, with the natural light, makes them feel quite spacious. And a number of you are looking for young adult children, and what a beautiful space. We've had quite a few young adults come with their parents as well and breathe a bit of a sigh of relief that it's not a basement apartment, because often, you know, a price point of rental for something like this, people are looking at basements. And so this is also providing that pride of, you know, where you're living and where you're starting and ending your day every day. We also have this unit that's ready to ship. This is another container. So again, we work with all sorts of different styles. These two are in particular use shipping container conversions. This model is ready to ship. It is 930 square feet. So more of that full house, but again, maybe more than you're looking for if you're looking to live tiny. It's a 2-bedroom layout. There is some flexibility with some of the interior space, but windows, all of those openings are there. From the factory, it's $265,000, plus you'd factor in deliver and site servicing. This one does require a full foundation, so your site servicing may end up being a little bit higher, but if you're interested in this one, please let us know as well, and you'd also receive that discount on the property assessment fee. Okay, I think now we can open it up to questions. So I'll start in the chat. I think we were getting most people as we went. So yes, we take care of the plumbing, water, hydro hookup. It is separate cost to the home as well as your foundation. So everything that you see with our pricing, our information package says starting at, so the unit is that. If you went with the finishes that the builder has at that price, and then site servicing is always in addition because it completely varies depending on your property, not necessarily the unit, but your property. Tom got the question about insurance, so thank you for that, Teresa. Sure asked, Thomas, maybe you could take this one. If you have an incinerating toilet, do you need a septic system, or is a gray water filtration system enough?
As far as the toilet is concerned, it's a chemical toilet. So everything is vented out to the outside. So it has nothing to do with your septic. And so the second question, I'm sorry, was on the gray water.
Gray water.
That would be a special treatment that would be set up by our environmental. And obviously we're looking at, creating, if you're having a shower, that's gray water, which is now going into, through a treatment, and then it comes out as clean water. You're not going to drink it, but you could use it to water your lawns, et cetera, et cetera. So you're recycling the water for some of the uses that you might normally use regular water.
Great question. Thanks for that. And Lori asked about 25,000. I think where I caught it was we were talking about typically the cost of site servicing usually starts around 25,000. It can get up to 50 plus depending on what kind of foundation and what kind of needs your property dictate, but 25,000 is typically what you can assume to start at to get all the services over and some sort of foundation. Can we see builders and models at the Tiny Home Show in July? Tom.
We're still debating whether or not we're going to attend ourselves. We've been to the Tiny Home Show before. We found that in the Tiny Home Show has been the promotion more of tiny units, and we're talking about 150 to 250 square feet type of thing on average, and they're on wheels. And this type of product is not allowed in a backyard on a permanent basis. So it isn't something that we get involved in at all right now. There's definitely a market for it. It's mobile, obviously can be moved. A lot of people use them if they're going into a trailer park setting, etc. On the other side is what we're working with. We have our team together with ATTIMO of engineers and architects and planners, etc. And we take our toolkit and we have a number of different housing, which I think I've mentioned before, but we're able to utilize that. And we're actually going to be creating villages of tiny homes, on attainable, affordable housing. So that we're looking at that as an option for people at the Tiny Home Show. But so we may be there, we may not be there. We may be there as a resource speaker too, but we support everything they're doing. It's just that, whether or not it's the type of show that, the people are looking for our product or not is a question.
Thanks, Tom. And Marilyn, thanks for that question. Does it get hot living in a container? Great question. So the containers really only act as structural shells, just like framing a regular house with wood. So what happens to that container? And there's actually a video on our website that shows our model unit being constructed in just a 2-minute video. And so R31 spray foam insulation, which keeps the warmth in the winter and the warmth out in the summer, is used, and then drywall. So it's just like a regular house in terms of, instead of stick frame, which is wood framing, you just have these steel walls as kind of the starting place. And then there's also your windows that are, our unit has double pane, so it's a good heat blocker. You can go up to triple pane windows. And then ours is also equipped with an air conditioner. So it's a heat exchange unit that has electric heat for the winter, and then it has an air conditioner in the summer as well. You can add ceiling fans. So no, they do not get any more hot than any new build of a house would. But great question. Thank you for that.
And the windows, again, as far as the treatment is concerned, the windows are very, very energy efficient, and very simple to open. You get a great breeze coming in, and you can imagine, if we're talking again tiny homes, you're talking about units that are 320 to 6, 7, 8, 900 square feet. You're not talking about a large space, and they can be heated and air conditioned very, very quickly.
Awesome. Great questions coming in. Nancy, can we install our own concrete slab in our own site preparation? Absolutely. If you know what you're doing or you want to handle the hiring of that to contractors, existing concrete slabs, this is one of those red tape things. Often they need to be re-engineered, so it kind of feels like a waste if you're removing a garage. Well, can we just use the slab that our garage was on? Not always, but we definitely encourage property owners to feel empowered to hire. If you just want to buy the unit and take care of that, that's certainly an option. We just want to make sure that you're getting the right people and doing it correctly, or else it could be an extremely high cost to have to redo any of that or make assumptions on, well, we have this, we can just use it. It usually isn't the case. So I would just caution you, but absolutely. Can heating include in-floor heating? Yes, it certainly can. It just changes that starting at price, but absolutely. Container conversion, stick build. What is the, oh, great question, Marilyn. So we have container conversion, stick build, which is wood frame. And then some of our modular manufacturers use steel frame instead of wood framing. Tom, do you want to talk about the difference with a steel frame?
Well, again, any construction, it's all varied according to pricing. And basically what we do is, again, try to understand what you need and the size of the unit and the style of the unit. And then we know which of the manufacturers to utilize. And we may get quotes from 2 different manufacturers, a stick and or a steel build, and make a decision on that. A lot of the times in the steel build are more in sort of multi-floor options versus stick. So I can't be specific about that, only to say that we know who to go to get the right information as far as pricing is concerned and what you're interested in and what your needs are.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I'm just doing a little bit of research, sure, on your question. How many doors does a tiny home need? Is there a size where 2 are required? So a window that someone could escape from that opens out, that's considered an egress, so in an emergency situation. So a bedroom would need to have an egress window, but 1 door is very typical across all of our designs. Tom, do you want to speak to, I don't know if there's a size that requires 2 doors. That's what I was just doing some research.
No, actually, that is a good question, and it's the first time I've heard it before, to be quite honest with you. But from my understanding, there's no regulation in regard to saying that you need 2 doors. We'll definitely look into that for you. But it really is a convenience factor depending on the size of the unit.
Yeah. And sometimes it's nice to have a walkout off the bedroom. We've talked to some folks about, our model has a window there, but that could be replaced with a door just to have a side entrance. A quick Google search tells me that in Ontario, you don't need a second door unless a building can have more than 50 occupants, which we've had quite a few in our model unit, but not 50. You could definitely have a party of 10 somewhat comfortably. Or if the building is a low-rise residential unit with more than 2 dwellings within it. So if you had 2 apartments, each apartment would need its own door. So we would dig more into that in your bylaws for your municipality for sure. But those are the answers we can give you today. It's 7:59. Tom and I are going to stay on and answer any other questions that are in the chat or that come through. The special offer that we have for everybody today, so it's $1,000 off the property eligibility assessment for those 2 units. But for any unit that may suit your needs, if you were at today's webinar, you would get $500 off of that initial property assessment. So this QR code, you can also just find it at our website, which is www.attimohomes.com, and go to our contact page. That will have you fill out our form and connect with me. We will book a call, spend some more time together, and see what's possible. But we'll stay on, we'll keep recording, and we'll answer some of these fantastic questions in the chat. Typical setback for a home from the main dwelling in Collingwood. Do you need separate designated walkway if renting? Great questions. So the setbacks, this is one of those things I will share. Yes, I'll give folks an opportunity to look at this and take a screenshot of the QR code, and then we can go back for sure. Setbacks are something that are so every municipality is different. Although the province comes out with mandates around accessory residential units, each municipality works at a different timeline to implement some of those things. And so in Collingwood, the setbacks are 3 meters on the sides and on the back. And I believe there's 7 meters on the front. It might be shorter than that now, Tom. But we would look into that for your particular lot and see where you're at.
I do know that, again, as Justice said, that every municipality is different in regard to their setbacks. I often wonder why, but we'll leave that one alone. And so but they are flexible because municipalities are understanding the crisis that we have, and they're willing to be more flexible, especially in regard to the setbacks. And I do want to say that in regard to the styles of units, especially the 2-story units that we have, so they take up a smaller footprint. And you could have a garage in the bottom for 1 or 2 cars, and then you could have living on top, or you could have living in the bottom and bedrooms at the top. There's a variety of ways that you can skin the cat with a 2-story structure, but it really works well if you need if you have a smaller lot size for us. The other thing we haven't mentioned, I think Jess mentioned, is parking. And again, parking is a challenge, because every municipality is different. You have, I would say, very forward-thinking. If you take a look at Kitchener-Waterloo, if you have a tiny home within, I believe it's 900 to 1,000 meters, you don't require parking. And we've tried to do that in other communities or other municipalities like Collingwood, etc. But unfortunately, they have basically said you need 1 car parking space per unit. But you can have up to 3 units in a backyard. But again, it all depends on how big your backyard is. I mean, it's totally unrealistic. You're going to put 3 units in, and you have a small, 1,000-foot backyard. I'm being facetious, but just to understand, the parking requirements, generally speaking, are you need 1 parking space, and again, we have to create that within the lot that you have. But if you went into the 2-story structure, you can actually put the parking underneath the unit, so that solves that problem if needs be.
And the other question was a separate designated walkway if renting. Now in Collingwood, yes, so it's 1.5 meters width. You need to be able to walk past the main dwelling and head to the unit. Now they used to require hardscaping for that pathway. That's not necessarily a requirement anymore. So it should lessen the cost a little bit. Yes, great question. And I believe actually the setbacks in Collingwood, so we were just talking with a family in Barrie and the town of Blue Mountains earlier this week. And then Elmvale, but in Collingwood, it's everything in Collingwood is a little bit easier. It's one of the more progressive municipalities in the area for sure. It's 1.5 meters side and rear and 3 meters in the front. So you have a little bit more wiggle room in Collingwood. In high snowfall area, can you modify roof to increase angle? Yes, and all of our, so all the roof lines are customizable. So that's one of those, again, starting at, but if you wanted to re-engineer something, there's the cost of bringing in the engineers and redoing the drawings. But it is possible with some of our designers, but everything is built to Ontario standards in terms of snow loads. I know after this winter, even in a neighborhood close to ours, we've had some tragedies around snow load. So it's something that's on our radar more than it has been in previous winters, and something that's taken definitely into consideration when we're building. And one of the designs too, you saw kind of a cantilevered container with a rooftop patio. So those are a little bit more expensive because there are other beams that need to be added to have load bearing for people to be able to walk on the roof. But it really does add a lot of functional living space to a design as well. ATTIMO is headquartered in Collingwood, but we're able to service most of Ontario with the relationships that we have with our modular manufacturers and site servicing providers. So thanks for that, Elizabeth.
And the other thing I might mention, that going a little bit outside for a second, but we have a company in Alberta that we utilize, and they're architects that have looked at mobility issues for seniors. And as you can tell, I'm a senior, but we're anybody over 55, I guess. But anyhow, we have about 15 different modifications and upgrades that you can actually purchase, whether it's ambient lighting, whether it's grab bars, whether it's making your appliances go up and down on an electronic basis. Anyhow, there's a ton of different things that you can actually choose from if one is looking at a garden suite for people in the future or now that may have mobility issues. And I think that that's critically important of thinking of the future and what you may need, whether it's anything in a tiny home.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna put this slide up just as we close. We welcome any questions that you think of after this call. You can reach Tom and or I at info@attimohomes.com. That QR code again will take you to our contact form where we can book a call and explore what's possible for some of your adult children, for some of yourselves, and we'll take a kind of a quick look on that call at your lot and examine some of these setbacks and bylaws and can give you an idea of what's possible. But it is 8:07. I saw everyone's cameras got a little bit darker in the last 15-20 minutes, so we won't keep you any later on this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all of your questions. Sure, Elizabeth, Teresa, everyone here, thank you for asking your questions. Keep them coming to our email. You can engage with us on social media as well. We will share this recording and we encourage you to share it with your networks and your community. If you find that this information was helpful or valuable to other folks in your circles who are having these conversations over coffee or the dinner table, man, why aren't more people doing this? Or why isn't it easier? Can't we just do housing better, differently, faster, more affordably? Please share tonight's webinar. We'll send it out by tomorrow afternoon. But thank you all. Thank you so much. We're in this together. There will be big changes in the Canadian housing landscape in the next number of years. So we're excited to be able to support that journey with you.
And the last thing I might say, besides thanking everybody, is that, you know, if you feel that we've left out something or haven't explained something better, please let us know. You know, as Jessica says, we're all in this together. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to really create a platform that can help everybody, because you can now see, you know, the details that one has to go through, choose to put one of these, you know, secondary suites, ARUs together. And we're here to help. And just pick up the phone or give us an email and we'll get back to you for sure. And remember what ATTIMO stands for. Right?
That's right.
Attainable, tiny, modular.
Very smart.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. 2 acres in town. Elizabeth, what a gift. Love it. Oh, cool. Yes, let us know if there's anything we can do, Elizabeth, to see what's possible in your beautiful 2 acres. It's nice to have that size to work with. It does make things easier. Okay, I am going to end the recording and then we will log off. Thanks, everybody.